Zangi Chedan Zoji Chanam La Janju Badu Dani Jauzu Chi Dagi Jinzo Jibi Senam Drola Penchire Sangi Drupa Shu Sangi Chedan Zoji Chanam La Janju Badu Dani Jauzu Dagi Jinzo Jibi Senam Ji Drola Penchire Sangi Drupa Shu Sangi Chedan Zoji Chanam Chanju Bardu Dani Jabzu Ji Dagi Jinso Jibi Senam Dola Penjire Sanji Drupa Shu Bande Zawe Lama Rinpoche Dagi Jiguro Beme Denshul Kari Chembe Gone Jezon De Guzon Duji Ngurugo Zedu So.
Thank you. We are deeply honored and lucky to have the Venerable Master Gonsar Tulku Rinpoche here in our studio. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Venerable Master, you were born in Tibet in 1949, and we know that you spent the first 10 years of your life in Lhasa, and your family is an aristocratic family, known as to be descendant from royal Tibetan kings, so a very important and rare family of Tibet. Do you wish to evoke some memories or some important moments from the Lhasa of those years? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here with you and sharing some, some little knowledge what I have of Tibet or my country or whatever with you. And as you said, I am somebody of a Tibetan origin and a pure Tibetan, born in 1949 in a Tibetan family, as you have mentioned. My family lineage goes back to a family called Hajari, that is ancient royal family. And anyway, that's not so important. But at the age of 3, a very special change has occurred in my life. That, as you know, that in Tibetan Buddhism we have the tradition that when some well-known spiritual masters or teachers pass away, then their disciples look for their reincarnation. So there have been a Lama with the name of Gonsar Rinpoche, and there have been 4 Gonsar Rinpoches before me, and now after the 4th Gonsar Rinpoche passed away, their disciples, his disciples were looking around, for reincarnation, and I'm sure they have a certain number of candidates, and finally they have requested His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, the present His Holiness, for the selection. And so therefore I've been selected as the 5th, Gonsar. So that then I got this title, and so that has totally changed my life.
Do you have memories from that moment, 3 years old?
Yeah, I have quite early memories, especially those memories when I was very young, even before 3. I had some events in my life where I was very frightened. For example, once when I was a baby, and there was a very strong earthquake. And I remember that event a little bit with my mother and so on. So I have, but I also have the memory of at this kind of naming, kind of selection, the nomination of me as the fifth Gonsar. I remember very well. I was taken to Potala, the big the temple, the residence of His Holiness, and where I was, my first hair was cut by His Holiness for him down. His Holiness was also very young at that time. Only this little part I remember. All that before and after I don't remember. So from childhood, early childhood, I am also first going up to this little monastery which belonged to my previous the Lamas with the name Gonsar. My name Gonsar came from that little monastery. So first going up to that mountain, all these, some events I remember from those young age. Yes.
It is remarkable to be the same Venerable Master and yet a different, with a different human body Master. How, I think it is quite special to, I don't know how to put in words, to feel this.
Well, to speak honestly, I am fully, I have full conviction and understand completely that I am a reincarnation. Not only I am reincarnation, you are reincarnation, everybody are reincarnation. About this I have no doubt whatsoever. But I am not sure if I am a reincarnation of such a master. This is others' view, it is not my view. This is other people, who came to the conclusion, to put me on this on the throne of that Lama. That is their decision. Maybe they have made some terrible mistakes. However, maybe it's right. Anyway, about this I cannot say that I feel like the last one or I remember something of the last one. There's nothing like that. But yes.
Thank you. Those are the words of a great master.
Yes. They may have done a big mistake also. Yes. Anyway, for me it is same time. At that time I didn't think of anything, but now when I look back, this was a great blessing. It is a great fortune of me to put into such a situation.
Yes, and after that you met your Venerable Master, Gonsar Rinpoche, and we have here several books, and I know that this book in particular, and I have to be sure, Trésor du Dharma, it's one of the most important books available in Romanian languages by Herald Publishing House, written by your Venerable Master.
Yes.
Do you remember the moment that you met your master and you remained for 33 years together?
Well, denominating me as a certain Lama with the name Gonsar, that I am not sure if that has really. That means, of course, a privileged life. I had also privileged life, with regards to everything, However, also you see, for me, all these people recognizing me as some reincarnation or something, then they're paying special attention and giving offering their respect towards me. All these, I sometimes find is really sometimes it's very questionable if I really deserve all that, And sometimes I feel very uneasy about that when people, have that kind of expectation, yes, and that kind of recognition. It's very kind of them, but still for myself, if this is really difficult to say if it's something really positive. Mm-hmm. But what is the most positive, which I can really, with all my conviction, I also feel myself most fortunate about is exactly as you say, encountering my master, precious master, my master Chadrel Rinpoche, from such a young age. And that is also because of recognizing me as a reincarnate Lama, so I got even a privilege of, obtaining such a extraordinary teacher, at the age of 5. So from age of 5, I really grew under his, loving attention, his guidance, and, as a child first, I did not know all the, the value of that. I kind of took it for granted, but afterwards I realized how rare opportunity, how precious and lucky I am to find such a spiritual master, and who showed me not only the spiritual path and the teaching of the Dharma and so on, to which I am, infinitely grateful, but also who gave me the love of the love of father, mother, and everything, as, with great kindness and compassion and skillfulness.
Venerable Master.
That is my precious Master.
Yes.
Yes, and it's not only, he is not only to me such a most kind and compassionate spiritual father, master, but for many, still for thousands others, and he has also very good disciples. I'm the least, but there are many other disciples who are really wonderful. Even in our monastery, in Switzerland, his oldest disciples are still living, and the oldest one is now 90. And then there are few who are 80s, lamas of very high age, and really, really highly developed people. They are also brought by him, and then he, because of his qualities, as a scholarly qualities, intellectual qualities, and spiritual, real experiential qualities, a realization that he has attained through his meditation, he became in our time one of the most outstanding. And after coming to exile in India, he also was selected as the personal philosophical assistant. That means not teacher, that means like somebody with whom he discusses.
Counselor.
Yes. We call like debate partner, somebody with whom one discusses and so on. Philosophical assistant to His Holiness 14th Dalai Lama also for many years. And then also he, back in 1968 or 69, this was also with wish of His Holiness Dalai Lama, he also started teaching the people from the West in India, and that way this contact to European people started, and that way he became also really one of the very important pioneer of Tibetan Buddhism in this part of the world.
And after India,
yes, in 69 he had first contact with the Western disciples, and I already spoke a little bit of English, so I served him as interpreter, and his assistants. And then back in 1974, there was one particular student, a Swiss Buddhist nun, who was a daughter of, the most famous Swiss music conductor. Her name is Anne Ansermet, and her father was Ernst Ansermet, is the most famous, music conductor of Switzerland, and his daughter became also very spiritually involved and became also disciple of His Holiness Dalai Lama and also disciple of our master. So she took the initiative to invite us to Europe for the first time. So we came first for a round of conference in many countries, starting from Switzerland, and that is, this book, Komodilo Dharma, this
the treasure of Dharma, yes.
Is that time he taught in Switzerland in 74
yes.
in Switzerland. This from that meditation course, this book been made, and then we also went around in other countries, in France and Germany and Italy. We met also with, there was also a meeting was organized with His Holiness the Pope Paul and so on, Paul VI and so on, and then we returned once again to India, and then the Tibetan, there are also quite a number of Tibetans who live in Switzerland as Tibetan refugees. Those community, as well as all those Western people who saw, our master and listened to him, they were so very impressed by his teachings, and so they all together asked His Holiness Dalai Lama to send our master again back to Europe. So 75 we came for long-term base, then we came to Europe, and then he started our monastic center in 77 and in Switzerland, in Montpellier. That's where we live. This is the mother monastery. And he also has invited His Holiness Dalai Lama for the first time in Europe on 1979. And when His Holiness gave his first public, that was his first public appearance. Before that, he was one time in 73. That was a quite short private visit. So that his public appearance, public teachings all started in 79 in Switzerland.
This is history, important.
Yes, historically organized by him, by our master. And he did it also, not only then, but also in 83, also was invited to Austria to inaugurate our second monastic center, which is in Austria. In 83, His Holiness came and inaugurated that. And also, we have organized some more events, also in Germany, and also still altogether about 4 or 5 times His Holiness's visit to Europe. So it's also therefore, and then our master himself established this monastic center where there are all the philosophical studies, and also monks community, nuns community, and lay community, and all. So therefore, I think our master was one of the most important pioneer of Tibetan Buddhism in Europe. And now we have, unfortunately, he passed away in 1986. But anyway, we try to continue his teachings with his blessing and his constant guidance. We try to follow the way he has, showed us, and then continue to learn and to practice. And now our, the centers following his teachings have also increased. In the meantime, now we have altogether about 10 centers. Yes.
And you, Venerable Master, a spiritual director of all the Rapten institutes.
Yes, it's supposed to be. Yes, to to fulfill that kind of duty to to direct or to lead all these centers and groups. But I'm not the only one. We have, as I said, some very good venerable teachers staying also in our monastery who also give teachings. And then very happily, what I can mention is also the reincarnation of our master. Also we have found, a year later, you know,
a year later.
And this was also finally recognized, confirmed by His Holiness Dalai Lama as the authentic reincarnation of our Master, Chadrel Rinpoche. So he also is now living in our center, and he is actually the real spiritual, our spiritual director is him. And he is now 26 years old. Yes, and this really has developed, you know, so astonishingly so well.
Yes, and this is the moment to present the latest Romanian translation of one of its writing, Vâncă Egoism. Yes. This is a full-time job for... Yes.
I'm so very happy that even though our contact with Romania is not that old, you know, it started already some years back, but within a short time, so many publications, so many translations, you know, of our precious Master teachings are already available. This is thanks to, you know, our dear friend, Mr. Mircea, who lives in Switzerland, and who, through his own voluntary, you know, initiative, he started translating Geshe Rinpoche's teaching, and now more and more texts are done, and there are also some other translators are coming up. So therefore now there are more and more precious works of such teachings are available in Romanian language. I'm so very happy about that.
And we know that in fact your relation with Romania, it is quite old, that you have a remarkable friend with Romanian origin. Please, Venerable Master, can you tell us?
As I said, my first contact with our friend Mircea, who is a master of opera singing, and he lives in Switzerland, and then we came in contact, and then he started translating from French. He is perfectly French, so from French into your language, and all these books.
Yes, Mircea Glovan is doing and was doing Mircea Costin Glovan a great work. All those translations.
And then also through his initiative, also our first coming to, you know, to Bucharest has started, and then here we found more friends, you know, that we have here Pauliana, and still many others, and now also we have a whole, you know, younger generation of, you know, students who are very enthusiastic, you know, to learn more about, because having read these books then, you know, attracts, you know, their mind towards the really authentic teaching of the Buddha. So now, you know, they are organizing on a yearly basis, you know, also some conference for me as well as my other Dharma friend, such as the Austrian monk who is also disciple of our Geshe Rinpoche, Venerable Helmut Gassner, who also come here regularly, and another Austrian monk, Venerable Markus Getzner, also coming here to give teaching. So therefore now we have quite a regular, you know, contact, and then we meet more and more good friends, and now we have one more friend, that's you.
Thank you, and we hope that you accept Spew Heart University invitation to conference on a regular basis, starting from your future visit in Bucharest.
Well,
as a visiting professor.
Very happily, if you think, you know, what I have to say is something meaningful, something useful, then of course, when I, you know, have time, I would be always at your disposal.
Thank you, Venerable Master. I know that Serge Celibidache.
Oh yes.
Is maybe another very special connection with Romania.
Because I should say my first contact.
Yes.
The very first contact with Romanian people, Romanian was Mr. Celibidache. You know, we came in contact, that was quite years back, through some of his student, and he's really very, very, close fans. And because he was, the conductor, he was a long time in the Münchner Philharmonic, Munich, Philharmonic, and there we met him for the first time. And then somehow we have some kind of, I would say in Buddhist terms, some kind of karmic relation. So somehow we liked each other so much, and then since then we remained very close, and he came few times to our place. He invited me also to his home.
What age he was?
He was already quite old. I don't remember exactly, but he was already quite old. And but then we were sharing, very personal our experience with our life, and then I found out that he was since long time very deeply into spiritual, and he also went to India and met with many Indian Hindu teachers and so on. He had a lot of experience, and then he came in contact with us. He also loves Tibet very much, and he found also a lot of similarities. It's very, very true, because when I went to his home, then I see these, also icons and like that, with a white scarf on.
Oh.
All these frames as a white scarf on.
Yes.
And that we do exactly the same. When we have in the temples or even at homes, when we have pictures of the deities, divinities, or masters, and like, we always put this white scarf on it. This is very auspicious. And now I see here also this kind of white scarf is put on the icons and such things. So such kind of small things here that we find a lot of, and also there are certain similarities with the Orthodox, church, in the way of chanting, etc., in the way of using the incense. There are a lot of things, and even some monastic instrument. For example, for calling the monks for prayers. This is exclusively in Buddhism. Even in Hinduism, you don't find it. A stick, long stick, and then you beat this. And we use that in our monastery, and here in the Orthodox Church also. They use this in the Greek Orthodox as well. I saw that, and in Orthodox churches here also using this, in the monasteries. So, which is there are lots of similarities. Anyway, Chaliji Pitachi was a very, was one of my very dear friend, and we have a lot of, and he's deeply, deeply very spiritual. And of course I also consider him one of the most outstanding musician. But he's very different from many other musicians of his level, Usually, of course, when somebody is a great musician, very famous and great conductor, there is every reason to be also proud and a little bit arrogant or something like that. But he is totally devoid of all such faults. He is so spiritual and so humble. He doesn't want to be even so much, publicized and become famous. He was not interested. So I found it kind of unusual, But anyway, we met quite a few times and exchanges, some spiritual things, and that was very nice. Unfortunately, we had still a few years, quite a few years, of exchanges, but then he passed away. Yes.
Venerable Master, you are a remarkable teacher in Buddha's teachings, and allowed me to start by asking you some important subjects of psychology in general, because Buddhist psychology, I think it's most profound, and we need to bring in our university faculty of psychology the knowledge of Tibetan psychology. So I was wondering, in this moment, what means that I exist? I exist. So I know
I exist.
So
yes, yes.
I suppose in this moment in the studio that I exist. And what is this sense of existence? That I feel my body inside, that I spontaneously can spoke, and I can see some thoughts. I have some thoughts. I have thoughts. But in this moment, if I try to better see who am I cannot see who is observing all these things that I've just tried to explore. So who is observing the thoughts? Who is observing the sensation of my hands? And I cannot find. Can you help me, please?
First of all, you just said before that I am a master, of Buddhism and so on, but actually, in reality, whatever people may call me, but my knowledge of Buddhism is still so minor. The Buddha's teaching is so vast, like the ocean, and my knowledge is a drop maybe, or maybe in the half of a drop. So therefore, there's not much that I can say about it, but anyway, it's my duty. It has become my duty to teach. But this is a very important question which you just raised, this question about the observer or about the I. This is also in Buddhism, in Buddhist philosophy, in Buddhist teaching, this is a very important point. The I, what is the I, the self.
Yes.
It's a very fundamental point. So here I think one has to touch some fundamental point of Buddhism. In Buddhism, the I, just like everything else, and every other things, I is a relative phenomenon. There's not an ultimately existing I. There's not an absolutely existing I. There's not an inherently existing I. That's what we think that there is. There is I am here, something which is inherent,
I, yes.
Or intrinsic I. This is what we think, but in reality, that is totally a misconception. It's completely wrong view. There's no such thing as inherent I, because I is a relative. I exists not because we think that my body and feeling, my mind, all these, what we call in Sanskrit skandhas, that means aggregates. Parts.
Yes.
We are made of 5 aggregates, with body, mind, feeling, etc. So we think that I exist in the center of all that, and then leaning to this I, then is my body, my all this as belongings of this I. That's our image.
Yes.
But this is our ignorant image. In the contrary, actually the I exists other way around. It exists totally depend upon the aggregates. Because the aggregate exists, then I exist. I is nothing else than a name that's given on this composition of these parts.
These aggregates.
Aggregates come together, and on this then the name I is given. So therefore I is conventional, we say. Conventional means that it is I as well as the glass and all these things are conventionally existing or relatively existing, because glass is, there's nothing in it which stands for the glass. It is just the whole, different parts come together, and then conventionally in the world, this is called a glass. This denomination is given, and through this relation of the denomination and the base, there comes an relative glass.
So all objects
are relative.
Yes.
Conventional glass, yes. A relative glass, or interdependent glass.
a glass which depends on all its parts. In the same way, me, I also is a name, is a convention. In the world, one person is called I, the second person is we call you, and the third one is he or she. So these are names, conventions in the world, how they are known to be. So that way I exist. So therefore, in relation with this name and our 5 aggregates, which is the base, and the name, and with the name comes also the concept. Because that is when we see this glass, because there's not any other reason for this object to be glass, except only reason is how in the world this is called glass. So therefore, through this kind of relation, part and part holder is a relative, so that way the glass exists. So therefore, if somebody takes with this name, then whenever we see this object, we see this is a glass, which is correct. If we see this as something else, as a rabbit or something like that, then is already wrong, because we are contradicting the conventional reality, this conventional reality. So therefore, if one sees this according to this convention, this name as a glass, that is correct. So and it has certain functions to fulfill. If we call this as a rabbit, it is just stupid, because it cannot fulfill the functions of the rabbit. So therefore, if one see it as a glass, that's correct. So in the same way, our aggregates on this, then we apply the name I. So but if I put this I on somebody else, you are I, then it's already a mistake, making a fool of oneself. The other person is, from your point of view, is you. Next one, you are you, and the next one is he. But this I is not absolute, because if this I is absolute, then it should be I all the time I. But it's only I is only relative. It's a point of view. From my point of view, this I is I. But from your point of view, this I is never I. It's you. And from the other's point of view, is a he, or with certain names, or just a person. But from one's own point of view, I am I. And not only that, but I'm very important, or the most important thing in the world. So all these things are projection, does not correspond to the reality. So first we create an inherent I, which is non-existent, is an imagination, and then we apply so many attributes to it which is not at all suitable. We can see it as something very precious, this I is, so this I is the owner of all my things that belong to me, is like the possessor to which all the possessions belong to. And also this I, then we see it something most important, almost like center of the universe, and that is I. And then not only, we call this kind of believe in this kind of inherent I or independent I, which is fundamental ignorance. In Sanskrit, avidya, that means ignorance. This is the fundamental mistake. And on that, when we have that, then there comes also many other delusions, what it's called. First of all comes egoism, which is not only we believe in such a self, but we believe that self as the most precious, more precious than other sentient beings. I am much more important than the other sentient beings. My suffering is more important than others' suffering. My happiness is more important than others' happiness. And that way, from that point of view, taking that I as the center, and then when we look at all other beings around us, we categorize them also in different parts. Some are our friends, other beings are our enemies, a whole lot of other beings are indifferent ones. For the first group we have attachment, to the second group we have hatred, for the third group total negligence, because first group is close to this I, so therefore they are special. And the second group is somewhat harmful to this I, or a danger for this I. Therefore, it's something undesirable, wish. And for the third guru, which seemed to have nothing to do with this I, then we can just simply ignore. So like this, from this first false grasp, false projection of the I, false I, and then we grasp it to be true, and then we cherish it, and that is the egoism. And from egoism comes all the rest, attachment, hatred, anger, jealousy, the whole series of delusions. And therefore, then we go through also a whole lot of problems and sufferings and all that, So therefore, at the root of that is that false view of the self. So therefore, and the reason why this is wrong is because there is no such any inherent independent I. If you look in, where does one find? There's nothing. You can look through the body to the feet. You find a whole lot of things, parts, up to the smallest particle. You find countless things, but you don't find any I. The owner is not there. If we look through our mind also, mind is a very complex phenomenon. It has lots of, primary consciousness, secondary consciousness, and sense consciousness, mental consciousness. In Buddhism, the whole mind and mental factors is a very important subject. Buddhist psychology is very, very very subtle and very, very vast. One classifies the mind in terms of, in terms of their perceptions, like sensory consciousness and mental consciousness. In terms of their levels, one talks about subtle, gross consciousness, subtle consciousness, subtlest consciousness. In terms of their nature, one classifies them into wholesome mind, unwholesome mind, neutral mind, etc. So there are many ways of classifying the subject mind or consciousness, and but there are a whole lot of things. But if we look through, where is this I in all these mind? None of them is also mind, And so in the body there is no such a self. In the mind also there is no self. So does that mean that I don't exist at all? To think like that is again mistake. Of course there exists I. Because of our existence we are analyzing. We are capable to, and if there is no person at all, then how can one analyze? So therefore to think I am non-existent, this is a very nihilistic view, which is very incorrect. So of course we do exist, but it does not exist in the way we think, we believe to be existing, in that inherent way. Then how do we exist? Then, as Buddha has pointed out very clearly, Buddha said all phenomena are, not only I, but every phenomena are patitya samutpada. That means interdependently existing. They are existing in dependence, dependence on parts, dependence on cause and conditions, and dependence on the name, on the concept, and through dependence upon all these different factors, there exists a phenomena. There is you, there is me, there is me, and there are other beings, there are sufferings, there are happiness, and there are all these kind of things. All depend completely on their various factors. Therefore, they are also changeable, because all the changes take place because of the dependence upon cause and conditions. So therefore, suffering can change into, may not exist all the time. There are suffering due to cause and conditions. But these cause and conditions change, then suffering can change. One also can be liberated from suffering. Happiness can also change. A person can change. Everything can change, because we are not independently existing, but we are all dependently existing, depending upon other things, So inherently, is there any inherently existing phenomenon? There's not. Buddhas also don't exist inherently. Me do not exist inherently. Anything do not exist inherently. Everything is relative. Relative is a little bit like, if we take, for example, these 3 fingers, we say, for example, take this finger. This finger is tall. This is tall in relation to this one, but it's short in relation to this one. But if we say, what is this from its own side? Is it short or long? It's nothing. It's neither short nor, nor tall. So that means there's not an inherent tall or inherent, short in this. It all is relative. It depends upon this. It is tall. It's really tall and not short. But in dependence upon this, it is short and not tall. So that's the relative. So therefore, you and me, it's also like two sides of the river. We are this side of the river, other side of the river. When we are on this side, the house is on the other side, we say it's on the other side. But as we go over the bridge, somewhere in the middle, we must change our view. We cannot still say that the other house is still on this side. Because when we are somewhere in the middle of the river, when we go to the other side, and then that house is no longer the other side, then we have to change our view. It is this side. And where we have been before is not anymore on this side, but is other side. But if we keep on insisting still this side, then we make fool of ourselves. So that way everything is relative. Other sentient beings and oneself and so on, all these things. There's nothing which exists independently, inherently. Everything depends upon cause and conditions. Everything is conventional. That means everything depends upon their names. Buddha is also a name, and like that, me is also a name. So therefore, there is not any independent I, as we say. But of course, relatively, there is I. There's me, and but if the question is what observes, what observes, then one should say it is the mind.
The mind.
It is the subject mind, because it is the mind's role. Each phenomena has its functions. The functions of mind or consciousness, in Buddhism is same.
Consciousness
and mind is same. The consciousness is classified in six. 5 sense consciousnesses. And then the third is the mental consciousness. So it is the mental consciousness which usually knows, identifies, and analyzes, and having the intention to do this and that. It's all mental. It is in that sixth consciousness, of the mind, what is called. So that is what actually observes, that also knows the objects, and so therefore one should say that is the subject, subject which,
yes.
But the subject also do not exist independently. Subject exists independent of the object.
Yes.
So if there is no object, there is no subject at all, because in Tibetan, in Buddhism, the definition of the subject, that which is known.
That which is known.
Known.
Yeah.
And the objects are that which is known, and the subject, the mind, consciousness, they are, or even a person can be called also a subject, and is the one which knows. And the objects, that which is knowable, or that which is known. So therefore, without knowing, without knower, there is no knowable object. Without knowable object, there is also no knower. So the subject and object are interdependent also. So that way, one should say the consciousness or the mind is the knower of the person's also existence of a person. Yeah.
Without my consciousness, the world does not exist. So if I am not conscious of the studio, of you, this means, for example, if now I am in deep sleep with no dreams, is it as if you are not existing?
It is not also exactly like that, because even though one's own consciousness is asleep or is not working or whatever, yes. However, they are the consciousness of all other sentient beings. So whatever, if there is an object object is always unknowable, that which is knowable, that is known. That does not mean that all should be known by me. You know, whoever knows it, you know, even though I don't exist at all, let's say, we don't, I am not in this whole play at all, but still there are other sentient beings, you know, with consciousnesses who sees, then that is sufficient for the existence of a phenomena.
So it is objective out there world exists independently of the consciousness? No, of my consciousness.
No, of course, and my consciousness, yes. That's, you know, there are, you know, a lot of phenomena, for example, in another world system, which I have no knowledge of. I've never seen, or maybe never see. But still there are many other, you know, phenomena which exist beyond our capacity of knowing, beyond our knowledge, you know, at the present. You know, many things which are not at all possible for me to know now, maybe will become, you know, evident some other time. You know, if because our mind is also is not always in the same state. You know, our mind can infinitely develop, you know, a capacity of knowing and all that. Our mind at the present is very weak, very limited. Actually, not such a powerful mind we have, but it is possible that we increase the power of our mind.
To expand the consciousness level.
Expand the consciousness, capacity of knowing. We classify all phenomena into 3 groups, which are called evident phenomena, the hidden phenomena, and the very hidden phenomena. So evident phenomena are that we can be through the senses. We can see, feel, touch, smell, etc. There's a whole range of that even an ordinary person can perceive them quite directly. That's one type of phenomena, but that's not everything. There exists a whole lot of other phenomena which is beyond the reach of our sense perceptions and so forth. So therefore, another range of phenomena, that is hidden phenomena. That means that cannot be touched or felt, but one can still understand them through inference, through logical inference, existence of something not directly seen, but one can understand it through, you know, logical, you know, inference, through the perfect reasonings on the basis of. There are a lot of things like that, and that's second group.
Yes, and
but the third group is even it goes beyond our logic. Some things which requires the mind itself to be, you know, its power has to be increased. Just like, you know, just like a lens, you know, that certain very minute, such as subtle things, objects, you don't see with your eyes, you don't see it also with your glasses. You need very powerful lenses.
Microscope.
In microscope, and which, for example, there are lots of things which don't see. For example, even these kind of
a virus, for example.
There's a lot of virus, and in all our carpets, and there are lots of these
microorganisms.
Yes, microorganisms. These milbeds and so on. You know, these things. We don't see anything, but through the microscope, then we see they have legs and everything. They are, you know, quite animal there. So that needs our, you know, that needs the power of the lens to be increased. But this is still physical. It still belongs to the first category. Yeah, but similar to that, our mental power can also know quite a lot of things through inference or through whatsoever, depending upon the intelligence. But a lot of things beyond that, you know, that still in which we have to increase the power of our mind, and this is very possible. Buddha has taught all the systematic methods through meditations to increase the power of our memory, to the power of our concentration, and the power of our discernment or wisdom. And all these mental faculties which we have now are in a kind of potential state. But it can be increased, and through increasing those parts of the mind, it is possible to know lots of things you know, which are beyond our perception now, to know directly.
Directly. Venerable Master Gonsar Tulku Rinpoche, we are in the last minute of our program. What a remarkable lesson of Buddhist psychology, but in fact it is not a lesson of psychology, a lesson of life, of finding our root, our real roots. Thank you again, and we hope to see you again and to accept the invitation of our university and be again in the studio next year.
Thank you very much for your very good questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.